The Van Cave.
I'll drink to that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet. Am I the only one not drinking Guinness?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What am I drinking? Spaten.
It appears that you're drinking a Doppelbock.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to call it by popular demand. Folks are wanting to hear conspiracy theories.
Yes.
First, not a conspiracy theory, as Tim has been widely ripped off across the internet.
Well, it's not the first time that's ever happened, and it won't be the last.
It's happened to me that after you did that. So Tim wrote a blog about the last episode of the Van Cave. Well, the last one we recorded. I kind of got out of order because we published that one ahead of some others about the proposed helmet law in Texas.
HB 748.
Yeah. And so apparently a lot of people wrote the exact same article after you did.
Yeah, funny how that happened. Funny how an Indian guy is able to completely rewrite my article word for word, and suddenly it's his. It went all over the internet. It went crazy. People were reprinting it beginning to end verbatim, or people were reprinting sections of it as part of another article. I saw one where the Right Apart article and my article were merged together as one article. It's just really, really disheartening when that happens.
And you know it's going to happen. You've seen it happen. We've talked about it before. We still write, and it still goes on.
Yeah.
So
it's just one of those things that sucks. But I will say this, that two of the worst offenders, I contacted them and told them to take the article down. And they did.
Oh,
so
cool.
So 2 out of a dozen or whatever.
I noticed your links to those guys disappeared. So,
yeah, exactly.
And I also noticed I was kind of late to the game finding out about it, and I was going to email, and I noticed several other people commented, yeah, I've already posted comments, and no comments had been approved. It was still just
exactly.
a wasteland. So yeah.
Well, they're getting the message one way or the other. Even if they're not approving the comments, they're reading them. Hopefully. Anyway,
I can't believe they figured that out. That's detective work.
It's one of those things that happens. It's happened to me several times before. Back when AMA Superbike was in its heyday, I wrote an article about traction control that was widely ripped off all across the internet by some of the bigger websites at the time. And you got to keep in mind that when AMA Superbike was at its absolute height, and I was doing a lot of reporting on that, there were way more websites dedicated just to motorcycle road racing, and they've all kind of died off now, just as AMA Superbike died off. But I've had to deal with it on several occasions before, and I'm sure I will again. So
the only time it hit me was on Reddit. I've had the Reddit BuzzFeed curse a time or two, where you'll say something cool on Reddit, and immediately you're quoted on BuzzFeed.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I guess I'm gonna have to read your article now, dude. Sounds famous.
What a dick.
It is. Well, I actually
I hadn't even watched the podcast about it.
I
haven't watched it. I haven't read anything. Because basically I don't care. So
gotcha.
I've been out of the loop. It's been a busy couple of weeks, but a couple of friends have asked about conspiracy theories and the Alex Jones thing, and you two guys are the perfect ones for this. And what I wanted to talk about, and I'm just going to jump in and go from there. When I turned on, I went to Facebook, there were 3 separate threads about the gas prices in West Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Right. We're talking about automotive fuel being more expensive in West Texas than surrounding areas, even though we produce a large amount of crude here.
Most expensive fuel in West Texas. And anybody who's watching in California is going to be very mad when we say, we have the most expensive fuel in West Texas, and we're paying like $2.39 a gallon.
Yeah, I don't even know. When we get to a point, I'll look it up. But we do pay more. I don't buy a lot of gas in Midland. Most of mine I buy on the road, and we are more expensive. But what was getting me about it, average national is $2.38.
Okay. So we are actually at the national average, because I just bought fuel and I bought it for $2.38.
Yeah, and the what's going on is immediately, and I need to come up with the prices, and I should have done that before we started. We are typically higher
Yes.
than other parts of the state.
Significantly. In fact, county to county, like you can go to an adjacent county and buy fuel, and it's significantly.
Well, if you go outside of Midland and Ector, Midland and Odessa,
Right,
Midland and Ector are pretty close.
Mhm.
But
you get out of the oil patch generally.
yeah, where I go, okay, we're probably going to have a podcast today, and this is a perfect topic because the overwhelming majority of posts pointed to a gouging conspiracy.
Well,
so
that's not surprising.
Right, and
anytime somebody's paying more than what they want to pay for something, they say it's gouging.
Right, and there are such things as gouging.
There are. And
I get it.
I get it. Like the guy who's complaining that the hotels are all gouging, but he's here working, making 3 or 4 times per hour or per month than he would be making anywhere else. But my labor, I'm not gouging on my labor. You know,
right.
Yeah,
so,
it's everybody else is gouging. I'm not gouging. Yeah, I'm getting paid 4 times what I'm worth because of an oil boom, but I'm not gouging anybody. Yeah. It's everybody else that's gouging me.
Are you familiar with Conquest's laws?
No.
Robert Conquest, one of his laws of economics is that everyone is conservative about what he knows best.
There we go.
Interesting.
That's good.
Uh-huh.
That's good. For the out-of-state folks and people who may not know what's going on, we're in an oil boom.
An unprecedented oil boom.
And I'm not even going to. There are a lot of factors at work that are bringing a lot of people here for very high salaries. It's driven up housing. It's driven up gas. Things are crazy, and of course, it immediately goes to gouging.
An average hotel room is $300 to $400 a night right now here.
That's what I hear. Yeah,
right, yeah.
And on top of that, the real estate and all that is just absolutely gone off the charts, and everybody immediately. The gas price thing is that people are just doing it because they can. And immediately, okay, having worked for the government, I've said this before a long time, I don't think, I can't see conspiracy because I can't see that many people doing it without somebody going, I'm going to be the one bastard to charge a fair price to bring people
right.
in my store, right?
Right.
So the last time I checked, there was not much of a margin on pump gas anyway.
Well, I can't speak directly to that. I actually have a little bit of inside information, but if the person who told it to me saw that I revealed it on a podcast, I would
Gotcha.
I would be banished from his life probably. But the markup on gasoline is decent. So one of the things that I'm not playing into the conspiracy, but just to be fair to the argument, one of the things that always happens is the station owners say, we barely make any money on fuel as it is. Price of oil comes up and we charge a little bit more and everybody goes crazy. You know how much of this is taxes? Do you know how much of this is this and that and the other thing? Well, enough of it's markup that you're selling it because this is a free enterprise system and you appear to be a capitalist. And if you couldn't make enough money on it and you weren't making it what you felt was a fair markup, you're not just going to go into business with gas pumps because you feel this civic duty to make sure everyone has gasoline in their cars.
Right. And I get that.
Well, there's a couple of things. One, places like big places like, I don't want to mention any names, HEB will use gasoline as what they call a loss leader.
Exactly.
Just to get people. They'll lose money on the gasoline because they know while they're there, they're going to buy groceries or whatever. Walmart can do that. Sam's can do that. HEB can do that. Your big players can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Your little guys can't do that. But having said that, it's pretty general rule is the federal government's making more money on a gallon of gas than the gas station owner is.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I could buy that.
Yeah, the taxation on fuel, not only in the United States or in Texas, but worldwide, fuel is one of the most taxed commodities.
Right.
It's taxed at one of the highest rates of any commodity, and it's because in America, they say driving is a privilege, not a right, but try getting around and to exercising your right of free movement without a car.
Yeah.
Everybody has to have
Especially
fuel.
here.
Especially here.
Especially
you
here.
can't ride a bicycle around here. You'll be dead in 5 minutes. You can't, there's very little choice. There's very little infrastructure other than open roads for cars, especially in West Texas. And so, that's I guess was my point on that, is just simply the fact that.
And it always fascinates me that even though all you have to do to produce a gallon of gasoline, if you consider drilling a well and pumping crude and, the fracking and the transport and the refining and the more transport and all those steps you have to do, and it still costs less than a gallon of milk.
Yeah.
It
costs less per gallon than milk does.
Yeah, they pay more for the water that they buy, the bottle of water in the store when they leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and it boggles my mind how you can produce a gallon of gasoline cheaper than you can produce a gallon of milk. But that's the way it is.
Economies of scale and volume.
Right.
It's interesting that you can't do that with ethanol.
Yeah.
We haven't been able to do it with ethanol. And a gallon of ethanol, any unit of ethanol costs more in energy and total expenditure to produce than you get from it.
See, and if there is a conspiracy theory that I believe in, I believe ethanol was introduced in part to take old cars off the road.
Well, it certainly worked a number on wild motorcycles.
The ethanol was introduced to make a bunch of farmers rich.
Yeah.
Right, but I say in part. I think there was probably an environmental angle that says this is going to eat up old non-ethanol vehicles.
Well, you may be onto something there, but the farm lobby is for the most powerful lobby in Washington, and they've done a very good job of getting laws passed.
Well, and I know one of the things we're talking about transport, our fuel comes from the coast. What is it, Houston,
yes.
Corpus Christi?
And some of it from Big Spring.
Yeah, and I talked to a station owner. I probably shouldn't mention him either. One of the last few mom and pops, they're still around. And pretty much everybody gets their fuel from the same place around here.
Mm-hmm.
The same distributors. And when you get into, first of all, transportation, it is hard to keep truck drivers around here. It's really hard to keep good ones. It's really hard to get good ones with hazmats.
Yeah.
Because if you got a hazmat, my God, you can make over $100,000 a year in West Texas right now.
Easily.
And then somebody was telling me, somebody I know was going over the conspiracy theory that everybody's just getting together and gouging prices. And I was telling them I've traveled in the span of a month, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, a lot of the big cities. West Texas is the only place I have seen in the last few months where stations are sold out of fuel.
Right.
You see fewer of the yellow, every once in a while you'll see the yellow bag over the pump and it may be broken and it may be out.
Yeah.
When you see 5 or 10 of them.
Yeah, most of the time it's out.
It's out, yeah.
Right. And a good indication of that for those of you who are curious is if they're all on the unleaded pump, then that's actually out. Or let's see, and the mid-grade pump too, because isn't the mid-grade a mixture of the high test and the regular?
Yeah, I think that depends. I would have to talk to somebody who knows a lot more. Also, they'll have more than one tank, and on the pumps that have a single nozzle, the way I understand it is they will operate on more than one tank of the same fuel.
Okay.
That way if something happens to that one tank, they still have fuel, which is why they can be out of fuel, of like regular unleaded, standard unleaded in 3 or 4 pumps, and then the rest of them would be still okay. They'll have bags on those because they haven't drained those tanks yet.
Gotcha.
That may be complete crap, but
it's plausible. It sounds plausible to me.
I know we're running out of fuel at times. It's high transportation costs, tough to get drivers. But we're just buying a lot of fuel around here. My God, this place is packed with people.
Mm-hmm.
If I'd have known we were going to talk about this, I would have read a Wikipedia page for a couple of minutes so I could be an expert before we got started.
We could be experts. Well,
this is a conspiracy edition of the Van Cave, so you can just make up whatever shit you want.
Just make it up.
Well, and the whole thing, conspiracy means things that are bad are happening because somebody is a big meanie stinky pants, and
Right.
making it tough on everybody. And my general understanding from when I hear somebody explain the economics involved, that makes a hell of a lot more sense than how you conspire across all the fuel retailers here to fix a price.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you would do that.
Okay.
That would be really, really difficult.
Right. And back in the college days, in the dark ages, we had the perfect example of economics. In fact, we had to do the professor did a lecture on it. Was over by where HEB is now, Midkiff and Wadley. There were 4 fuel stations, each on a corner of major intersections. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
2 of them were fuel stations, just gas stations for you kids out there.
It was the old Cecil Chevron
used to
on one
be-
corner.
Yeah.
Caddy corner was an Exxon station,
Right.
and then there was
Mustache Mall, was a little liquor
Mustache
store.
Mall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then a kid. So basically, you had a kind of a liquor store, a convenience store, and then 2 gas stations. And there was a price war. If one guy came out there in the morning and changed it a penny, everybody would change a penny. But they all offered different services in addition to fuel. If you needed tires, or if you bottle cheap whiskey or a soda, you all had different places to go. Now everything, I don't know where this fits into the conversation, but everything is sold at convenience stores now.
There are very few dedicated fuel stations. Now, I can't think of one dedicated just a fuel station, like a gas station. The last one I remember was out at Andrews Highway and Midkiff.
Yeah. That's right by my wife's office, and we get vehicles inspected there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's a few but I mean they're not they're automated, so there's nobody there. I mean,
right. There's no attendant.
There's no attendant. It's like the gas card and places like that.
Yeah, and so we're talking about, again, this would have to be a secret cabal in a basement over a sacrifice and candles of people agreeing and nobody leaking and it all working out perfectly. I just can't.
My conclusion on this is just it's part market forces here and it's part market culture here, and there's no more conspiracy to it than that. The market bears it. Free economics, not that necessarily selling fuel is a free market, because it's a very coerced market, but you see what I mean.
Yeah.
They're going to compete with each other at whatever the general consensus of what the competition should be is. And that's how it happens. It's just everything's more expensive here. You don't believe me? I mean, go to one of the chain restaurants here, and then go to one of the chain restaurants, the exact same chain restaurant in San Angelo, and the food's cheaper there. Try to buy a house here if you can find one for sale right now, and price the exact same house in San Angelo or further east or the Abilene area, and you'll see that it just has to do with market forces. Considering what's going on here, what's going on here is insane and unprecedented. So, anyway,
I just can't. Again, I'm not saying that I'm I'm so faithful in the general goodness of human nature that it wouldn't happen. I just don't think it's possible.
No, I mean, people are in business to make money. I'm in business to make money. I mean, I know you guys are government employees, and thankfully you don't have to worry about that. I don't begrudge you that.
I like money.
Yeah. But we all like money. But I have to make money, and I don't feel bad when I make a profit at all. And if I'm charging if someone sees value in the price I'm charging for the products and services that I provide, then no wrong has been done there. I made a profit. They saw value in that. The market bore that price as value, and we're done.
Yeah.
Free enterprise, capitalism. Welcome aboard.
Okay, I demand that we either have less graft and corruption, or I get more of an opportunity to participate in it. Those are my demands.
Exactly.
That sounds like a Dennis Miller thing. Exactly. What is TAT? How do I get it, and how do I exchange it for the other thing?
I've got a demotivational poster in my office with that on it. So I totally ripped that off. Just like people ripped you off. I totally ripped that off.
Well, honestly, I worked when I was an investigator. I worked sex crimes for 8 years, and we would get a case come in, and we would go after a person for a sex crime. Typically, we got a lot of child molesters, and you go grab this guy, and immediately the best thing they can come up with is a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the fly, but I said, so did I just do like in The Jerk and whip open a phone book and go, die Navin Johnson? Yeah. There's a reason I'm at your doorstep. And then they said, well, it's money. Okay, how does anybody make money off me throwing you in jail? Have you been extorted? Has anybody asked you for money? Well, no. Okay, well, let's move on to the next thing. What else?
Yeah.
So, I believe, if I remember correctly, didn't you have a case of a sexual assault that occurred inside your jail? And you interviewed the suspect, and he told you that the victim had intentionally gotten thrown in jail so that he could have sex with this person and then blame him for raping him.
Yeah, I remember that.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't even want to go close to who that guy was because that would, oh my God, yeah. But
that was his excuse.
That is, man, thank you,
Holy
Clif.
crap.
Yeah. So again, having been accused of conspiracy theories myself,
obviously you were in on it. I mean, come on.
And we sat down. We had an interview. We had an interview like that guy. We had him absolutely dead to rights. This one guy. He was a horrible child molester, and I sat around with my my sergeant at the time, and we sat down and after work and had a beer, and we tried to work out exactly how we could pull that off.
Yeah, like if you wanted
to. All right, man, let's light the candle, sacrifice the goat, and let's get this done. And going back to government, we're not working that hard, dude. Yeah. It's like the whole Jade Helm Walmart thing back in the day. There's absolutely, I can't understand how anybody comes up with that and can see the logic in working that hard. And government, I want to know, is government just these masterminds that can pull strings and make anything happen, or complete idiots?
Yeah.
On the internet, we're both.
Right.
So
well, and I will revert to something that a conversation I had with the great Mr. Cliff Sykes one time, is that they will invoke that, they will play that card. The conspiracy theorists will. They're more apt to play that exact card when this happens. And I learned this from Cliff. When we're taught when we grow up, as we were growing up, if you want big things to happen to you, you need to put forth a lot of effort. If you want to be successful, you need to try. You need to work. You need to get all your ducks in a row. It takes tremendous effort. Okay? And the same thing, when we see a tremendous result, we assume that tremendous effort was put forward. But when we see a tremendous result with only a little bit of effort put forward, or perceivably a small amount of effort put forward, the conspiracy theorist mind can't process that. That's how we get, George Bush was behind 9/11, that sort of stuff.
Right.
Because they just can't accept that a handful of terrorists learned how to fly airplanes and did all that. It's just too simple.
Well, and that one is, I'm glad you brought that up, because 9/11 was an actual conspiracy.
It was a conspiracy.
But it wasn't the right kind of conspiracy. It was like, oh, no. It has to be bigger. It can't be like a couple of guys sitting in a cave in Afghanistan cooking up this plan and then actually pulling it off. No,
it couldn't possibly be.
We got to involve the president, and we have to involve all these other, because there's just not enough moving parts in that.
Right.
In reality, we got to have some more.
This was such the result was such extraordinary magnitude that it can't have been that simple of a conspiracy.
Exactly.
It has to be this wild ass stuff.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
I'll tell you the other thing. I have a friend, a good guy, and let me back up. I think that there is, in many cases of the theorists themselves, maybe there's a little mental issue or twist in there that's kind of like how some of us, our brains immediately take us to dark places if we see spiders or high places or whatever. I think there's some people, for whatever reason, this guy used a lot of drugs at a young age, and he stopped.
He was using way too many drugs when his brain was still forming.
Became a highly degreed professional entrepreneur and a fascinating amazingly talented, brilliant person. And he'll tell you, I screwed my brain up because there are certain things that my brain can't do.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see all the contrails today? That's a conversation with the guy, right? And he immediately goes to conspiracy theories. And we were working together one day. No, he's not in government. We were working on another off-duty project together, and he said something about a conspiracy theory. I don't remember what it was, chemtrails or something like that, and chip implants. And I said, I tell you what, brother, I will get on board, man. I will jump on your train if you can explain to me who they are. I want to know who they is.
Yeah.
Okay. If you can explain that to me, and I see the person, I understand the goal, what they is up to, we're on board. I can roll with that, okay? Because if they say, hey man, I got a warrant on Tim Kreitz, I want you to go catch him. I'll go, let me learn a little bit about Tim Kreitz, and I can tell you where he's going to be tomorrow, right? He'll be at work or whatever. And it shut him up, and he thought about it. And one day, he sent me a video, and he said, "Dude, here it is. This guy explains all of it right here." Right? And I haven't slipped up and said his name, have I?
No.
Did I say? Okay, I'm not going to say his name. But the guy sent me a video, and I was going to be working in my shop that day. I was working on a motorcycle, as a matter of fact, and I thought I'm gonna listen to this. I'm gonna get into this video, and it was like 3 hours long. And it was a lecture that this guy was doing at the International Foil Hat Consortium of whatever. And I started listening to it, and I kind of drifted off, and I went back to it, and I suffered through this whole thing over and over until
You are a good friend to do that, because I would have been just hey.
It made
I'm not watching
no sense.
I'll watch it for $60 an hour.
It was almost like listening to a language generator.
Well, obviously it didn't make any sense to you because
and that's just it.
You're not sophisticated enough to understand
and
what's
we
going
go back
on
to
here,
that.
dude. Come on.
Yeah, we go right back to that. There's always, like, they always have a dick bomb grenade in their pocket when you go, dude, this is absolute bullshit, and they go ka-chink and throw it at you. It's like the whole
it's like flat earthers in a way.
Yeah.
That's a whole thing. Flat earthers, what I figured out about flat earthers, and this exists, in my opinion, in several other avenues of conspiracy theory culture. Flat earthers have a psychological need to be a hold of some information, some truth that no one else has.
I know something you don't know.
Right. I have the truth.
Yeah.
I am forget the fact that I've never made more than $6 an hour, and I'm a part-time convenience store clerk, and I take a lot of antidepressant medication, and I've amounted to nothing in my life.
Yeah.
I have a truth that you don't have, and I will not let go of this truth. And so there's a huge contingent of that problem.
Said the Master Mason. Now go ahead.
Yeah, we got to do it. We got to do a Masons episode.
Matt and I could do a whole. We need to get one other Freemason in here so we can just talk about all that horse shit.
I want 3 past masters, you, me, and somebody else.
Okay, we can. That's easily arranged.
I will roll that camera for days if I have to. And that's one of them. I would love to be able to shoot live and have call-ins, but I won't because I'll say something stupid.
Yeah,
I will say something just totally stupid. But yeah, I think it is a delusional thing at one point, but there's always a grenade, and somebody pointed one out. Where they always go with government is they'll ask us a question. They will say, okay, did you get up in the morning and throw a dartboard or throw a dart at a phone book and pick out this guy and arrest him?
He hates these cans.
Yeah, you're right.
Stay away from the cans.
Die, Navin Johnson. And
Johnson,
we'll say no.
Navin R.
Let's talk about why I hate Alex Jones.
Okay.
Alex Jones accused me personally.
I was
going to
say, you had a personal run-in with Alex Jones.
Sean Cooley, here you go. A buddy of mine asked me to talk about this. heavy metal singer. It's funny when you have a friend that's a heavy metal, speed metal, thrash metal. What I hate to talk about metal because I always say the wrong thing. Oh yeah, man, speed metal. That's not speed metal.
Yeah.
It's
one of these 99 genres of metal that no one can tell, no one can decipher from the other.
That's Scandinavian, slightly darker than dark gray metal.
It's real fast and all the guitar tones real shitty.
That's not death metal. That's really seriously ill metal. Yeah.
That is Scandinavian black hole metal.
But yeah, I love Sean, and he when I see his Facebook post, it'll say, "I have the most lovely wife in the world," heart, and all I hear is, "I have the most lovely." Yeah. So anyway,
don't hurt yourself.
Yeah. So I told him I'd talk about this. So I was a SWAT commander for 15 years at the sheriff's office here, and we had an armored vehicle. It was given to the team by the government in the late 90s, and a lot of people freaked out about that, because it was all a plan for the government to take over.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you guys couldn't find parts for them half the time. They were always broken down.
It was actually the opposite, because we were facing domestic terrorism issues. Here in Texas, we had the Republic of Texas guys,
Richard
and all those
McLaren
weirdos.
and all those.
Yeah, there was a lot of weirdness, and the whole plan was actually to give some capability to counties, places, little agencies that couldn't afford, $150,000 armored vehicle.
Right.
So it was actually to sort of decentralize law enforcement. But, again, we're talking about the foil hat thing. And it got used, and it got shot at. And this guy he started marking arrests we had made with it. And they were using a sign maker that they make road signs with, because it was next to the office that made the signs. So like the little school crossing, it's got the little people on it.
Your tax dollars at work, ladies and gentlemen.
So he cut out these little vinyl people.
We need some new stop signs. Yeah, forget that, dude. I need a little guy that I can stick on my head.
Right. Those signs, when they buy those signs, the government, they're blank. And they print.
They just print. Yeah, they print it out. Stick it on there.
So he put these little people signs on it. Well, we were getting shot at one time, and the bad guy was hammering down on our vehicle, and I was trying to get around to a place where we could get some fire back in.
Where you were trying to get where you could shoot him with the main gun.
The tank. Yeah, it was an armored vehicle,
which it did not have.
Yeah,
shut up, Tim.
Oh, sorry.
So we were moving around, and this guy had a junk car in his yard, and I ran over the car. And it has tracks on it like a tank, which is why everybody thought it was a tank. It's an M113. It's on my blog.
That car was a piece of junk anyway.
Well, yeah, and anyway, and I didn't really even know I'd hit it. I mean, I'm looking out this little hatch, and it was, anyway, there were two armored vehicles involved. One was from another agency. The guy eventually ran out of beer and ammo and gave up. He was just shooting at us from a house. So as a joke, the guy printed out a car and he stuck it. So it's like two people in a car, right, on the side of the thing. And actually, we had made several more arrests with it. He just hadn't made any signs. I'm like, is it not funny anymore? Come on, dude, hook me up. So this was over many years. Well, 2008, we used it at the that fundamentalist Mormon thing in
the Branch Davidian.
No.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, this was this was
because of the Branch Davidian thing. We're handling is a religious cult, El Dorado, Texas. Look it up.
That's right.
Fundamentalist FLDS. Fundamentalist.
FLDS. Richard.
That's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Can't think of the guy's name. Richard. No, was it Richard? No, I'm thinking of Richard McLaren.
Man, why did you make me draw a blank? This is also burned into my mind. Now it's gone. It'll come to me.
Everybody knows it was the big FLDS debacle.
What was his name?
Jessup.
Jessup? Yeah.
Jessup. Yeah.
It was. I was there. I was in the middle of it. That was a child sex cult. It was horrible. Anyway. We use the armored
attorney
vehicle.
will be contacting you shortly.
I think the 18 convictions will handle it. But anyway, so our armored vehicle was using that, and because of the Branch Davidian thing, that whole thing by every agency involved was handled like a hand grenade with a pin halfway out. Everybody was careful.
Yeah.
There was some physical resistance. Maybe I'll do a whole thing on that, but they vowed to fight to the death. So we brought an armored vehicle, and news media got in there and got pictures of it. And next thing I know, we're getting calls sometime later, and I can't remember the time frame, but it was an unusually long amount of time.
About as long as it's taken to tell the story.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm getting lost, guys. But they started calling asking about the kill marks. They just random people. Mm-hmm. And so what had happened was Alex Jones had published an article saying that we had killed 2 people with that vehicle, which I guess we either run over them or drop the hatch on them or kill them with noxious
Well, technically,
fumes.
you were supposed to kill that guy over in West Odessa, but you couldn't catch him because you drive too slow.
Yeah,
you jerk.
Yeah, it was used. Yeah, we had a couple catches in West
totally
Odessa.
different.
Yeah, total inside joke,
one, yeah.
but another one. But what was crazy about it is the calls started going to admin, and they started getting a little more in depth, and they started hitting my office and asking questions about this. And I said, look, it has never and at that point had not been involved in a fatality at all. In fact, the only fatalities that I'm aware of that has ever been around were cops that were killed in a shooting in Odessa. It's people typically see it and give up. And so a guy called me, and he was claiming to be a college student. I said, dude, don't lie to me. I won't lie to you. What do you want to know? And we had a conversation, and I could tell this guy was trying to take me into the ditch. And I said, I'm telling you, it's never happened. So that went away. The next thing that popped up, I found the Alex Jones article where he said they contacted a tank commander from the Vietnam War and said those were kill marks.
Matt Van, tank commander.
Yeah.
Well, the guy they contacted was the same guy in West Odessa they tried to kill.
The guy that shot it a couple of times. Yeah. And it was crazy because they just flat out said in the article, we killed people, and that was it. And so the next thing they did, and this is the big crescendo of my whole story, is we got a Freedom of Information Act request for maintenance records involving the fatalities of 2 people in the armored vehicle.
Somebody's got to clean all that mess out of the of the tracks, you know.
Right.
Winston Wolfe.
There's got to be records.
You gotta sop that shit up.
It's got to be records.
Lots of cream,
somewhere.
lots of sugar, baby.
Lots of cream, lots of sugar.
There got to be records of this somewhere, right?
I said, the only thing we got is like some oil changes, and that's it.
Matt Van removed skull from track.
So
I'm the guns of the Navarone.
Yeah. So what it comes down to, the first thing they say is, well, we asked them for that,
but they didn't send us anything, which proves they're hiding something.
They didn't say no. Did you kill people with this? We don't have, we asked for records on the kills, and they didn't say no because we didn't produce any records.
That is confirmation bias of the highest order.
And so
because you're the kind of people who will murder people, but you won't lie.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where we draw the line.
That's it. I can't lie about this. I'm just not going to say anything.
Right.
We have a set of ethics that we uphold, and we don't lie.
When I retired from the team and transferred out of the sheriff's office, I wrote a blog post about it, and it stirred all the foil hatters. But it amazed me, and that is why I hate Alex Jones and all the deplatforming and all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. I get the argument, the whole First Amendment thing, and is it a right like a utility? You know what? If it's Alex Jones, I will punch you in the face if I ever see you. You and Joe Rogan, man. I've been watching that deal. And
what's going on between them? They're at odds with each other. Like Joe, it seems to me like he has gone out of his way to accommodate Alex and all his craziness as best Joe can.
Here's the thing. This is my theory about Alex Jones. I first heard Alex Jones when I fixed an old radio that had some shortwave on it. And I caught a shortwave pirate rebroadcast of Alex Jones. Okay, so some dude in his foil hat is like, man, this guy's got it on. And so you got Alex Jones going across shortwave. And I'm listening to this, and I don't remember. I couldn't tell you to this day what he was talking about, but I'm back there in my shop going, I don't know who this cat is, but whatever he's talking about was kind of cool. Whatever it was, I agreed with him. I had no idea. I can't tell you what it was. And it was a government or legal thing. And I thought, oh, it's kind of cool. And I caught the name, Alex Jones, and I wrote it down.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started seeing InfoWars articles later popping up. And I'm going, okay, this guy kind of seems like a foil hat. And then an InfoWars on us.
Right.
And that's when I decided.
And then it got personal.
Yeah. And then if you want to hear who this guy is and what he's about, listen to the Alex Jones interview by Howard Stern.
Okay.
Because apparently he was at one time friends with Howard Stern, like this guy, or at least cool.
Uh-huh.
And Howard Stern asked him some direct questions that this dude absolutely moonwalks around. So at the time Alex Jones gets in his divorce and all this other bullshit, he starts really pushing the whole I'm playing a character angle, trying to get out on it. And I'm like, I don't give a shit if you play a hot porn star with big knobs but you accuse me of murder, me and the team that I'm running of murder, I got an issue with you.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care if it's in fun. So yeah, get deplatformed.
Yeah, that's a very microcosmic version of what he has done to everybody else around him at this point.
It's not microcosmic if my scatterbrained ass tells it. It's going to take an hour. But anyway. Sorry.
Well, that's very interesting. I knew kind of the general framework of that story, but I had never actually heard you tell it before beginning to end. It's one of those things where, and you have to keep in mind with guys like Alex Jones, he's got a vested interest at this point in the craziness.
Right.
So once that becomes a dependent thing in whatever your business model or your model of delivering your information, you're no longer credible.
Right.
I'm not saying Alex Jones ever was credible, although I will say this. He did have some legit things that he discovered or exposed in his early days compared to what he's doing right now. Like, he was a lot more level-headed. He snuck into that whole cremation of care, Bohemian Grove deal. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't even remember that. When you said cremation, immediately what I thought of were the FEMA caskets, that deal. He was part of that.
No, there's
awesome.
There's this group of really rich guys that it's and some people, the more you learn about this, you'll see that some people try to tie it to Freemasonry. There are no ties to Freemasonry. It's basically a weird little Stanley Kubrick-esque secret organization called the Bohemian Grove. And they do.
Man, you're going to get us all murdered.
Here we go.
Shut up.
Anyway, back in the early 2000s.
I hear black helicopters.
Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, he basically snuck into Bohemian Grove, which is in California. It's up in the redwoods of California. And he showed that they do this weird ritual that has this giant owl, and they put on this play. It's called the Cremation of Care. And they burn this effigy of a child. And it's legit weird. Like, whoever these guys are, whatever they're doing up there and why they're doing it, who knows? But at least, and actually that's one of the things that gave him, quote unquote, credibility in the conspiracy theory culture. But ever since then, he has just become more and more and more and more and more extreme.
Yeah.
And to the point that he's actually in full self-destruction mode now. So I don't think you ever have to worry about punching him in the face, because it seems to me like he's punching himself in the face every day.
Once you start out, okay, you make that transition from news to entertainment.
Yeah.
And the transition happens so slowly that you don't even notice it.
Mm-hmm.
You just kind of creep over from news, from hard factual news to entertainment. Well, once you're in the entertainment world, you have to keep ratcheting it up, because people always want a little more and a little more and a little more. Wrestling started out as an actual sport. You guys may know this.
Exactly. And motovlogging started out as actual motovlogging.
Exactly.
Before it was gunplay and road rage and fake videos and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah. So you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you enter the entertainment realm and you commit yourself to that as part of whatever
And you do it because you want to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it pays better than just sitting here spouting facts.
Well, you know, we were talking about this the other day, the Jade Helm training exercise that the military does. I still don't know what Jade Helm actually is.
I don't know.
Because
maybe it's a real thing.
It Jade Helm is real. It is very real. The military announces it. It's a training exercise
involving Walmart.
Okay, well, hang on. That we're getting there. We're getting there, and this is just kind of how the Alex Joneses of the world take us into it. Jade Helm is weird.
Yeah, it's a very unusual training exercise.
But I'm going to explain it. I have done Jade Helmish shit before, and let me explain. From what I understand about Jade Helm, it's training by the military, by special forces in different parts of the U.S. Now, all the places that they've done it here lately have been kind of desertish.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Big Spring,
mountainish, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, places like that.
Right.
And it involves military training and mixing in with moving through small towns.
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of like that. And that is what I know about it. Everything else, I have no idea. But they announced we're going to be doing it in this place or this place. And so Midland did it military did it in Midland, and at the same time, a Walmart closed.
Right.
For was this 17? 15? They always put a name, Jade Helm 15, Jade Helm 17.
15 or 16.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And so Walmart closed for plumbing problems, and people went completely apeshit. Obama was president, so it had been probably 15. And immediately Walmart was going to be a FEMA relocation camp, and every single train, truck, everything with military gear that passed through it was on Facebook. People were going apeshit.
Yeah.
Now, reading between the lines, when I first heard Jade Helm was way before all that. And I read about the thumbnail of what I said, and I go, okay, that makes sense, because let's pretend you're a SWAT team, and let's pretend a guy takes a hostage in an office building, okay? 10th of 20 floors, and he's taken hostages. He has a good vantage point. Let's make it even shittier. Let's say he has a couple of accomplices in other buildings. And you make a call.
Wasn't this the plot for Die Hard?
I was about to say.
But let's pretend he takes a couple of hostages, and he's holding hostages in Tim Kreitz Enterprises.
Nakomi
next
Tower
door,
or something?
Next door is
what's the name of the building?
Clif Sykes, sex toy corporation.
Of course, it has to be something goofy.
And Clif is on board, and we say, hey, we need to stage up a SWAT team there, and the way we're going to do that is...
Don't mess with the toys.
Right.
That's my stock. That's my business. Leave that alone.
Yeah.
Leave the black destroyers alone.
I know you guys want to play with all this stuff, but...
But what would you do but build your team up in your friendly spot without anybody seeing you? Well, how would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
And so
it goes to urban warfare tactics.
Right. So you'd have to, how do you get guns in there? How do you get people in there? How do you do your counterintelligence, counter surveillance? How do you make all this happen? Well,
you got to be sneaky.
Once you do it, yeah, and if it's 3:00 in the afternoon. So when you train this, do you cordon off the whole building, shut everything down, and dump people out? Or do you do it real time as close as possible? That's all Jade Helm is. When I read it, knowing what I know, not making me an expert, but just a little bit in the know, and I read about Jade Helm, and that's cool. And then the Walmart thing, and then the FEMA caskets came around again.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that? Yeah. These people came out with polycarbonate, injection molded grave vaults.
Yeah.
Right, they're huge. These things are enormous. They're grave vaults that they put the casket inside in a grave, and they ship truckloads of them at a time. Every time those fucking things popped up around Jade Helm, they were headed for Walmart because they're burying your ass in it.
And another big thing that was happening during the height of the Jade Helm conspiracy furor was that there were a lot of freight trains moving military vehicles.
Yeah.
There were military trains.
Yeah.
and whether or not those were connected or not, nobody knows. But military trains, I mean, they're a pretty common sight now.
No. I'll tell you who knows. Anybody that does anything on Interstate 20, if you live by it, work by it, I patrolled it.
Mm-hmm.
There's military gear all the time. Fort Bliss.
Yeah.
They're
constantly moving military
constant
gear.
military gear back and forth all the time. So,
but everybody was so hyper vigilant about everything that, man, it's just kind of one of those things that happened. And of course, it all blew over, and nothing came of any of it. And all the conspiracy theorists, all of a sudden, they got really quiet. They didn't want to talk about it anymore.
Right.
It was so weird. So
that's the thing about another deal with the whole conspiracy theory thing is there's no history. Right. It goes away. And a buddy of mine, he wanted us to talk about QAnon. Try to understand QAnon.
What the hell is that?
I'm going to have to research it more. Supposedly a deep op, super in the know, deep state, shadow government person that has turncoat and is revealing information. And he's supposedly predicted things. I have no idea. I kind of skimmed it, and I just can't. It's like the video my friend sent me. I can't understand it, but I ask him, and I ask anybody else into conspiracy theories. Now that you've uncovered it, what are you going to do with that information?
Right.
That's the big part.
Yeah. And most conspiracy theorists don't want to do anything with the information. Right. They just want to hold their truth over your head. They want that sense of superiority, that false sense of quasi-superiority they get from holding their truth over your head and looking down on you because you refuse to believe their truth.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. They get a satisfaction from that, I think.
I know something you don't know.
Mm-hmm. Are we talking about religion or?
I was not going to say that, but you did, so I'm not responsible.
Oh, okay. I wasn't paying attention. I kind of nodded off there for a second. I came back. I was like, "Oh, we changed subjects."
Yeah.
Tap the brakes, Turbo.
Well, and it is in a sense. How many of these things? Again, we're going to go back to we talked about this before. Are you factually, culturally, or emotionally driven?
Mm-hmm.
And conspiracy theory to me is emotionally driven.
Sure.
In most cases, I don't see it being cultural, but
there's a subculture that surrounds it. But otherwise I agree.
Well,
with you.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So now you get in that echo chamber, and there you go. Yeah.
And all humans, to one degree or another, are guilty of that. We seek people who think, act, believe, generally see things the way we see it, because as much as you may search for, what is right and wanting to, actual facts, finding actual truth, we all have biases that we walk around with every day. And one of the reasons the three of us are so good friends is because we see eye to eye on so much stuff. It makes it really easy to be friends, And I do have friends that I disagree with vehemently on certain things. We just can't talk about those things. So it limits the scope of the things you can share with one another.
Okay, but how many of those things are cultural or emotional?
Yeah, most of them are cultural and emotional. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you're raised, if you're raised in a Christian culture, it's hard to see or understand anything else.
Yeah. Same thing if you're from a real devout Muslim culture.
Right. Yeah. It's hard to see outside of that.
Yeah, I don't want to compare Christianity to Islam.
No.
Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying that there are cultural aspects to all that. Yeah. Sure there are.
I'm just sitting here thinking about being raised in a conspiracy culture.
Well, I mean, we're there. If you want a conspiracy there.
Go to the Facebook news feed, dude. People don't care whether what they're reposting is true or not, whether it's left, right, or center. As long as it agrees with their sensibilities, they'll repost it and they'll have a big tizzy fit over it as well. Oh, look at this! Look at this!
That's true, but Facebook is designed that way.
Sure, yeah. Matt's going to be nice and get us some beers.
Facebook is designed that way.
Sure, yeah. It is, and so is YouTube.
Yeah, it's designed to have you generate as much content as possible. So, because they have to keep the thing running. So it can't work if everybody just stops sharing stuff and stops posting stuff.
If there's no conflict, if there are no arguments, if there is no controversy, If there's nothing there that gets people fired up, you can't click on the scan column ad link right beside all of it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what a big part of it is. And YouTube is one of the worst about it. If you want to have a successful YouTube channel, you don't do what we're doing right here. You don't do what I do on my YouTube channel that after almost 5 years just now hit 10,000 subscribers.
Woo.
You don't, yeah, well, I mean, it's a huge accomplishment for me. But what you do is you play to controversy. You play to things that titillate people. You
exactly.
Yeah, that's what you have to do. And YouTube will try to take the high road and say, "Oh, we don't do that sort of thing.
Right.
We're all about our terms of use and blah 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 blah."
Would you hold it down over there?
Yeah, take it. Could you get us beers more quietly? Thanks,
Yeah.
by the way. Just kidding. Yeah.
Man,
all right. Yeah.
You know, if he keeps this up, we're not going to invite him back.
But if you look,
this is his house, isn't it?
all you have to do is search on YouTube on your Roku television or on your laptop or on your phone for anything that can be tied to a conspiracy theory, and YouTube will shoot back 1 million conspiracy videos your way, because that stuff breeds interaction, and high interaction increases CPM on ad rates. That's all it amounts to. Right. YouTube doesn't have any moral high ground to stand on. They're not any better than anybody else. They're leftists, but they're not better than anybody on the right. They're just as dirty as anything they purport to stop. That's all it comes down to if you want to look at it that way, you know.
So, just yesterday, I saw a video of this young lady from somewhere who was complaining about the fact that she had spent $250,000 on a degree and now she couldn't get a job.
Yeah.
And of course it was a stupid degree, but we're not going to talk about that, you know.
Oh yeah.
But
I got a story on that.
But one of the comments on the article that I read, this guy commented, he said, "You know, she would have been better off setting herself on fire riding a skateboard and putting the video on YouTube."
Yeah, she would have been way better off. So I had I was contracting to a company one time who needed to hire a staff artist, a graphic designer. And this dude came in, young guy, mid-20s, not from West Texas, from somewhere up in the Rust Belt, and came in and showed us a portfolio. It was a decent portfolio. You know, his stuff was certainly good enough to do the type of work that he was going to be doing, probably better than he needed to be for the level of work where he was going to be. And we started asking him, okay, well, what are you thinking about salary-wise? What do you need? And he said, well, I've got to have at least $75,000 a year. And I'm like, dude, you're a 25-year-old graphic artist. You don't get $75,000 a year. Well, it's not really my choice. I have 102 or 108, can't remember what it was, $1,000 in student loans. I said, what is your degree in? Commercial art.
You mean like all the people on Fiverr?
Yeah. You're an idiot. You're a moron. You
Wow.
have $100,000 in student loan debt for an art degree. You spent $100,000 to get a degree in something you don't even need the degree in to do the work. And that just crawled all over me. The kid couldn't understand. Well, he was so entitled. Oh, I have the degree.
Wow.
I have the credentials.
Somebody owes him a damn job.
Yeah. Somebody owes him. Somebody owes him.
Right.
Yeah.
So social media is a conspiracy. We got to get back on the conspiracy thing, man. We got lost there while you were gone getting beer. So
well, I apologize. I had to chase the dog out. If you guys didn't notice, I had to bribe her with a treat to get her out.
She made her way.
Yeah,
in.
because she'll. Yeah.
Right on. Okay.
Social media is a conspiracy.
Absolutely.
Continue,
man.
sir.
I got nothing after that. That was it.
Well, I want to share with you guys.
PewDiePie says that internet memes are a conspiracy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They're created by space aliens so that humanity will cease to advance. And when they finally reveal themselves, we will have been stagnated for decades or hundreds or even thousands of years in the production of internet memes, and will not have been able to arise to their level of technology.
Oh, beautiful.
They can dominate us.
I do not have a coherent argument to refute that.
Yeah, exactly.
So Yes.
So I want to share with you guys perhaps one of the greatest conspiracy theories local that I've ever heard. And one of the reasons I love doing this van cave is my memory and flow has been damaged by a period of heavy drug use called chemotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
But you remind me of one, talking about the jail. I turned keys in the jail for a number of years at the beginning of my law enforcement career, and in a brand new jail. And the way it's designed is it had housing units and exercise units that are jammed together in kind of a flower shape.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it was designed is if it caught on fire, if there was a fire, you could move people into places where there was no fire.
Mm-hmm.
And then
that sounds like a good idea.
some and then blowers that would suck all the smoke out, of course,
Mm-hmm.
which would oxygenate and make things burn. But you know how that is, it's smoke removal, and everything was these huge high roofs. Well, this dude walks up, this prisoner, and this guy is a walking conspiracy theorist. And he came in, he goes, "Man, I figured you guys all out."
Damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have to kill
And
you.
it's like,
Go stand in front of that armored personnel carrier.
right.
Well,
So-
I got to find the keys.
Call-
You just stand over there.
So
I'm
here
looking.
it
Somebody
is.
call the decal guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell him to start working on number 3 because it's coming, man. I feel it coming. So I'm sitting here. It's 10 o'clock at night. My nerves are shot. And anyway, and the guy said the way it's designed is if there was a fire, we would move them all into the exercise area, which is open to the clear blue sky.
Yeah.
And that the blowers were designed to pump the smoke inside the exercise area
Good thinking.
and kill all the prisoners.
Hmm.
Well, I'm gonna let everybody sit with that for a minute.
That doesn't make sense.
And I said, "Tell me why we wouldn't just leave you in
Yeah.
there to
Can't you just-
burn?"
yeah, why would we put forth extra effort when we could just leave you where you are?
Right. You're in a concrete box, and we light it on fire.
Oh,
Why would I move you there?
A concrete box that you bastards set on fire.
Yeah.
Because y'all are idiots.
Yeah. So that
Wow.
was one of the betterments, and I was like, maybe at least now that the guy's got the internet, he can. So I want to talk about.
So did
ahead.
you ask him though, what if we murder all you guys with smoke inhalation, what are we going to do with this armored personnel carrier? we got a huge investment in this
Yeah.
thing. We got to feed it.
Right.
This
Yeah.
dog's got to eat. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
That's exactly right. And we're gonna have to fire all the jailers if we kill you guys.
Yeah, that's true, man.
You guys are like a money machine.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's like, damn it, this guy's so far ahead of us, boss. I don't know what we're gonna do.
He's on a level I haven't figured out yet.
So I will tell, and we can talk about this because the guy has published all of the following story on YouTube, but I do not want to generate him hits or anything else. But a local crazy man.
Oh no.
Right?
We can't
Whoa.
talk. We're not
No.
going to talk about
No.
this.
We're not
guy.
going to speak his
No.
name.
No,
But,
no.
But no. I'm not going into stories. But what I'm going to talk about is if you follow that guy,
No.
it started with a conspiracy theory, and how deep has that gotten? How deep is that rabbit hole? That is pure delusion.
Well, okay. Excuse me. We need to draw a line between a conspiracy theory and mental illness. Okay.
That is
There's a difference.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is, and what I'm saying, this goes back to my
And
original point.
And I'm not saying that this gentleman is mentally ill, as he has pointed out many, many times on YouTube. He has never been diagnosed as schizophrenic, and I agree with that. He's right. He has never been diagnosed
my
as
my
schizophrenic.
my point in bringing this up.
Cheers.
Yeah. Yeah. My point in bringing this up is how many people walking the streets, the conspiracy theorists, are somewhere between completely normal and that guy.
Oh yeah.
That's my point.
Maybe delusion is a spectrum. Maybe you can
I'm
be
sure it
different
is.
places
Yeah.
on the spectrum.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to be totally nuts. to see an occasional weird thing out of the corner of your eye,
Right.
you know?
And that's the shadow people. That's a thing.
There you go.
Yeah.
Skinwalkers.
Yeah. The shadow people is a
Guys who see UFOs. No,
I'm just ready to call you an anomaly there, man. I just but
I wouldn't talk about it if I had if I didn't have all the witnesses. Anyway,
Well,
go ahead.
Can I? And I don't want to talk about the guy you're talking about.
no, I don't want to even.
But let me say this: as part of my job, I have been exposed to the writings of more than one person.
Right.
Okay. And so we used to get
their pictures are next to our receptionist.
Yeah.
That says, call an investigator if any of these guys show up. And
so
his is like neon. Yeah.
So we had this. We used to get a lot of emails from this gentleman here in town, and his theory was that I don't know how he got here, but the Midland Police Department, the Lubbock Police Department, and the San Antonio Police Department, all three followed him everywhere he went with a drone. Okay, every time he left his house, there was a drone that followed him everywhere and spied on it. The reason that this happened was because he was a Hispanic male. That was the reason. And I'm just thinking, how many drones does San Antonio PD have?
And how?
Because I'm not a demographer, but I think there's a lot of Hispanic guys living in San Antonio.
That's why they call it San Antonio.
And I'm
San
just
Antonio's
thinking,
a Spanish word for road construction.
how would this even be possible? I mean, it's a scale of crazy that.
And SAPD, I want to know what batteries you're using in your drones because I need them for mine.
and
that
Lubbock,
you can follow somebody around so pervasively
and Lubbock,
for so long.
anything from Lubbock that you can share on with this, but that's just some of the stuff. I've got another. There's a big long writing. I've got a letter from a gentleman who's passed away now, but I can bring it. Let you guys read it. It's all about how he grew up. And he was actually a child star in Hollywood, and he was kidnapped by some people. He says who it is, but I don't recall. And he was put in a box, and he was shipped to Midland. And he's been here in Midland for 25 years. He's been trying to escape, and he's trying to get back to Hollywood because he's got this big Hollywood career going on that we somehow, for some reason...
His agent is like, where did he go?
Yeah, I can't find this guy anywhere. Anyway, dude, it's there's just a lot of that out there. And I don't consider that an actual conspiracy theory because it's just crazy. It's just
crazy.
It's just crazy.
Yeah. So unfortunately, some people have a lot of mental illness. They're just nuts. They can't distinguish reality from their own imagination. And I mean, we don't want to make light of that. It's
I'm not making light of it. Yes, I am, because sometimes it's really funny.
Well, this is your show, so go ahead.
Yeah, well,
it's your dream, baby.
Sometimes it's really funny, and again, I've had them in front of me in my office and emails a lot of times. But I do think it's a spectrum, and how hard you bite is just how far you are into it, whether you're into gay frogs or shadow people or whatever. But
I think it's a chemical imbalance.
Yeah.
There is a whole clinical segment of these people that we're talking about, and they consider themselves to be under constant surveillance. They call themselves TIs, targeted individuals, and they believe that everyone around them is some sort of a mole or a shill of some kind who is only in their life to observe what they're doing and report it to someone else or potentially kill them or cause them some kind of harm. They believe that it's a very extreme form of paranoia. I can remember back in my law enforcement days reading a story about a so-called targeted individual who attacked her father-in-law because he kept clearing his throat on Thanksgiving Day while they were watching the football game, and that throat clearing and that person's mind was signaling. It
Yeah.
was a signal to someone listening on a wire or something about
that retasked the satellite to
exactly. Yeah,
he's over here.
that throat clearing was a signal. It was a message that was putting that person in danger, and they attacked their father-in-law or whoever it was.
And on the local, and we've run the spectrum from gas prices. Our
you guys wanted a conspiracy
yeah.
podcast, you got one.
All the way to targeted individuals. And I'll tell you one thing that's kind of in common with all of them, and having been face to face with these guys, I was dealing with a Republic of Texas dude one time. Not even going to go into the story, but he was going
that's
through
for another podcast.
Yeah, that's a totally different deal. It's along the lines of sovereign citizens, but I was having a conversation with a guy. He wasn't in any trouble. We were just standing in a public place talking, and I laid out the actual fact to his argument, just popped it out there. And you know what he said? That's what they want you to think.
Absolutely.
Again, who are they?
Who are they? Right. And so I'm a shill. I'm a plant. I'm the one guy that just, I can't wake the sheeple, man. I am the sheeple. And yeah, I don't know what to do with any of that.
So I read an article just yesterday. I can't remember where this was. This guy was putting some speakers in his truck. Did y'all see this article?
No.
It was on the Drudge Report. He was putting some speakers in his truck, and a neighbor's dog, a Dachshund hound, had gotten out and walked under his truck.
A what hound?
A little dachshund, a little Dachshund.
Oh, Dachshund.
Yeah, and he decided that this dog was spying on him for the police department. And so he wrapped it up in electrical tape and threw it in a ditch. Well, luckily, a member of the police department happened to find the dog in the ditch and rescued it before it died. So it's going to be okay.
Wow.
It made it back. It got back home. It's okay. And the guy went to jail. But I'll bet you the cop was out looking for the dog because he knew something was wrong because their spy dog, disappeared. So
there was suddenly a piece of tape went over the camera and the audio.
And they were like, that was the dog.
Right,
that was the dog. Come get me out. Yeah. It was the dog. And so that's what happened. So there you go. It's a real thing.
I'll tell you on the other end of the spectrum.
Spying dachshunds.
On the other end of the spectrum, and I ran it through while you were talking as best I could. I don't think anybody involved in this is ever going to be on the podcast, but having a very rural West Texas high school upbringing, we were drinking beer at a caliche pit one night. A bunch of high school kids. And sitting on the tailgate, that's kind of what we did under the stars. And it was in the summer, and we had stopped to buy a fireworks stand and bought a box of M60 firecrackers, right? And when I was younger, they used to be hot enough to blow up a beer bottle.
Because they were M80s back then.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I don't know anything about the energy of those. I've heard M80, M60. I've heard, that's a quarter stick of dynamite or a quarter of a plastic.
What is
it?
Yeah.
What does the M stand for?
I don't know.
Go ahead. Tell your story.
I can get one of our EOD guys in here to tell us. Yeah, but exactly, they were hotter, and so we're all sitting around drinking beer, and somebody put one in. And the modern ones don't blow up a beer bottle. They just won't do it. And somebody put one in a beer bottle, and it popped, and we go, that sucks, man. They just ain't what they used to be. And the guy goes, you know why? They're making them beer bottles a hell of a lot thicker so they can put less beer in them. And I said, it wasn't me. I didn't say this. Somebody else said this. I'll have to verify before I'd say his name. I can't remember. But he goes, you think it might be so drunk assholes don't blow their hands off with them when they're trying to blow up beer bottles? And he's like, yeah, I don't know, whatever.
or maybe even when they drop the bottle, when they get too drunk, it might not shatter.
Right. But 12 ounces is 12 ounces.
Okay, guys, I got a great marketing idea. Let's make our bottles more expensive.
Yeah. When let's make it take up a volume of beer that is extremely inexpensive.
Right. But how many people?
I know the markup on beer. As a professional
was a
brewer.
brewer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Go ahead.
But my point is, it sucked. It was a bad situation. You know, it's not as much fun because you can't blow shit up with it, and immediately it has to be a nefarious, some kind
There's a
of
conspiracy.
cheating
But
somebody
see,
out of something, and that's how it was born.
That guy knows something that you don't know.
But that's what they want you to think, man.
Boom! We're out. That's it.
I can tell you this, that M60s and M80s were nowhere near a quarter of a stick of dynamite.
Or the blasting cap.
You need to have Britt Parker grew up in Monaghan's, very near the Wicket dynamite plant.
Yep.
And he's got some dynamite stories. One in particular was for some kids who got a part-time after-school job out there at the dynamite plant. What little kids do after school, or high school kids do after school at a dynamite plant, who knows? But they managed to sneak off with a stick of dynamite, set it off in the bottom of the Million Barrels Museum. And blew a gigantic hole in the bottom of the Million Barrels tank, and basically created a small national emergency in Monaghan's because someone thought that World War II had started again, and they were dropping bombs.
Watch this. That's what they want you to think.
That's what they want you to think.
Okay, we're out. That's it. Ladies and gentlemen,
Good
thank you
deal.
for joining us.
All right, we're out. We're out.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Bye. This went on way too fucking long. See you guys next time.